camera can flow with the movement of the choreography. There were no stunt doubles. It was all them. Actually a very, very simple scene to shoot. I think we did it in a day.
Maybe they shouldn't have done. But this comes from Deadline, who do breakdowns of each episode with the cast and the crew, and if you think it's bad when you watch it, oh, it gets so much worse.
I mean, certainly for Hal, he knows that he's probably not going to survive without her.
Irian is a progressive character. Wants to make a name for herself in a field dominated by men.
And I've just found out about them all, so this ought to be fun.
The two of you meet literally at sea.
Yes.
We clearly know that this relationship is going to develop into something.
Pierce each other's sort of emotional armor.
Oh, they're about to pierce each other, alright. Now, they talk about the scene from episode 5 in the Forge where Galadriel and Halbrand have the argument. And in my last video, I spoke about how this proves that Galadriel is just evil, and yet the showrunners don't even seem to think that that's morally incorrect. But after these interviews and hearing how they speak about it, they've proven me absolutely correct.
What Aaron and I wanted to do was create this sense of entrapment. She feels that she has the upper hand, and so when she comes in, it almost feels like she's sort of cornering him and pressuring him.
He knows that he's probably not going to survive without her.
This whole scene was about entrapment, manipulation, emotional blackmail. It's not something your heroes are supposed to be doing in an optimistic show, and yet that is what the show was meant to portray. A commitment to portraying hope. Tolkien wrote a story about hope and the little guy succeeding. We always felt that it was the #1 rule that there needed to be true optimism and love, even in the darkest, scariest moments of the show. That is what this scene to them is. Even though the people are doing the most horrible things they can to each other, oh no, this is all about portraying hope and optimism and love. Maybe that's why the actors talk about this scene as if it's actually two-sided, when it wasn't. This scene was always about Galadriel getting what she wanted, but you wouldn't know it to hear them talk about it.
But then when the tables turn, Halbrand gets the upper hand, and Halbrand feels like he's now cornering her as he presses Galadriel.
This literally never happened. The scene was Galadriel pressured him, started demanding things.
Help me.
I think I've helped you quite enough.
Then help yourself.
He asked why she was so obsessed about it.
You're asking me to go to the one place that I swore never to return. The least you can do is tell me why.
And she answered him and then used her answer to emotionally blackmail him.
My brother, he was killed by servants of Sauron. Is that enough for you?
I'm sorry to your brother for all of it.
Your sorrow cannot ease my pain. I know what a hammer and tongs is yours. There is no peace to be found for you here, and nor for me. No lasting peace in any path but that which lies across the sea. I have fought for centuries seeking to earn mine. This is how you earn yours.
Asking, why do you want me to go, isn't getting the upper hand or pinning somebody down. And I think that guy even knows it when he said, feels like he had the upper hand. In other words, Galadriel always had the upper hand, which is exactly how she's had the entire show.
Stop fighting me, and together let us fight them.
And of course, they don't even talk about the third part of the scene, the worst bit, which shows Galadriel of exactly how horrible a person she really is. No, instead, the actors just try and excuse it. Oh, he knows he can't survive without her. Oh, but he knows he was going to be used. He knows that there's something else, some greater purpose to it all. It can't just be that I'm getting manipulated by a cow.
I think there's just a huge amount of conflict in Hal. I think he knows full well that he's going to be used, but there is something within him that is drawing him back to that. Yes, destiny feels like it's written in the stars for him to go with her. But I think what he really wants from her is just some kind of truth.
No, none of the immorality or responsibility could possibly be attributed to Galadriel. It's all about Halbrand and how he knows that there's just some weird greater power that's all making him do this. Certainly can't be the responsibility of the person that's talking to him and doing horrible actions in order to force him to obey her. The entire section of the cast interview was just desperate to excuse the horrible behavior that Galadriel did in this scene. None of this seemed like optimism or love to me. It wasn't about the little guy succeeding. It was about the little guy getting walked over by someone who's far more powerful than he is, and it definitely wasn't portraying hope in any way, shape, or form. And all of this gets worse when they start talking about Halbrand, and it seems like they're backing up my theory about how he becomes who he is.
He is moving forward. He's leaving his past behind, and he's saying, I'm starting afresh.
And gets dragged back into something that he was only trying to leave in the first place, and it's all Galadriel's fault. I don't see how you come back from that in this show.
Why do you keep fighting?
Because I cannot stop.
Galadriel represents for him is like a second chance, a new start, but inadvertently she sort of starts to pull him back towards things in his past which he might not be willing to revisit.
And it goes back to my last video where I said they seem to lack any kind of moral compass at all, because it isn't just dropping hints about who he is and his past and where he's going in the future, but they try to excuse his actions as one of the most evil people on the planet all down to some form of destiny. It's not his fault, it's just the way the world made him. It's just what somebody else wanted for him.
But there is something within him that is drawing him back to that, destiny. Feels like it's written in the stars for him to go with her.
It's not himself and his own decisions, it's not his responsibility, it's destiny, it's another power. It's just society made him do it. The constant need to divest responsibility into some kind of greater ethereal force outside your control is one of the most repulsive aspects of modernity, and yet it seems to be an idea which is pervasive across all culture and media nowadays, and it feels like it kind of sprung up overnight.
Stop fighting me, and together let us fight them.
You're asking me to go to the one place that I swore never to return. The least you can do is tell me why.
Destiny. Feels like it's written in the stars.
It is funny though when you go back to sort of the older summary articles, and you find statements that you forgot about from a long time ago, that Sauron is Morgoth's first lieutenant during the worst of the First Age. After Morgoth is defeated, Sauron kind of disappears for a couple of hundred years, and Tolkien himself is silent about what he's up to during this time. So, in the Second Age, he can reappear in a way that's hopefully surprising and delightful. Do you think anyone's going to describe what's currently happening as delightful, let alone surprising? But he's going to reappear in a way that's least expected. Yeah, I mean, all those times the show has been taking a sledgehammer and just hammering the answer into your face with peak subtlety. Definitely going to be an incredibly surprising reveal.
But there's this person that he is connected with, drawing him back to that, destiny.
At this point, even Forbes has a quote which says Halbrand has a dark side. We've already seen his violent streak and tendency towards betrayal. It would be ridiculously obvious and boneheaded to make him Sauron, to the point where he thinks it would be so obvious that these can only be red herrings. Yeah, because it can't be bad writing. Rings of Power would never have that.
Do you know why a ship floats and a stone cannot? Because the stone sees only downward. The darkness of the water is vast and irresistible. But the ship has a secret, for unlike the stone, our gaze is not downward but up.
It's also not as if the cast and the characters would just be basically telling you in their interviews as well. Can't possibly imagine what he's trying to refer to.
Drawing him back to that, destiny.
This is also where they address the budget leak, which is where we get the $465 million for the first season from, where Lindsay Weber herself says, well, the first season is a lot of money, however, it's far less money than was written about by the New Zealand government. So thank you, New Zealand, for that, saying that the reported figures were inflated, and that the initial season's budget includes startup costs, including costumes, props, and set pieces that will all be used in future seasons. And I don't know, maybe having a budget which isn't quite as large as it was reported could be why they're having Clone Wars on their interviews where just everybody's face is the same. Because as we all know, extras are incredibly expensive and would definitely have broken the bank on a $465 million budget. You could have even just done a tighter shot and not even needed the people at the back, but no, we've got to make it seem impressive. Then we move on to one of the more stupid scenes of the episode, and I did think this is what they were trying to imply. I just hoped I was wrong, because none of it makes any sense.
Up until this point, Nori really has been the one that is trying to convince everyone that the stranger is actually here for good.
And at first, she had no reason to think that. She was just telling everybody that, despite any evidence. But in this episode, they actually do prove him to be good, which should be great, because it proves her correct.
By the time we see them in this scene, the stranger has traveled with them, their migration, which could have been possibly a couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, I'm not letting that go. Several people have mentioned how confusing the timeline is on this show, how you've got multiple stories progressing in parallel, but some of them travel for months across the world and just seem to teleport there. Buildings get built out of nowhere. Meanwhile, in Númenor, a couple of days has passed. Nothing tracks, nothing makes sense. But is it any wonder when the director of their own scene doesn't know how long they've been migrating for? Oh yeah, how long did it take them to get from there to there? I have no idea. Maybe a couple of weeks, possibly a bit. I don't know.
Could have been possibly a couple of weeks.
If you don't know, how are we supposed to know? And when you do that, the only conclusion I can come to is that you're doing it deliberately, that the timeline isn't meant to make sense, that you don't want people to track it because you know the truth. That by taking all of these events from the books and condensing them down from thousands of years into 5 seasons, you know your timeline can't make sense, and so you're not even trying to track it, because if you tried to fit it into chronological order, you would get absolutely annihilated, and it wouldn't even make sense in your own show. So by covering the timeline in this vague referential mist, you just hope that people will be so confused they don't even try. Oh, don't worry about it, don't think too much, it's not meant to make sense. Just turn your brain off and enjoy the shiny things we put on the screen.
He's saved Nori and Poppy and Malva from a wolf attack. The final proof that she has that he was good.
So you thought he was good for absolutely no reason, Then he follows you and proves he's good by saving your life at risk and damage to himself. Well, that's certain then. That's all the convincing I'd need. You're certainly not going to throw that and a potential huge ally away for literally nothing happening to you, are you? That'd be stupid.
When their hands come into contact, she finds that she's frozen to him. We see flashes of light, suddenly realizes that maybe she was wrong about the stranger.
He went off in private, away from all of you, to heal himself with his own magic, which he thought may be dangerous to you, probably because he doesn't know how to control it all yet, and you come along, see something growing up his arm, and decide that you're going to touch it, and blame him for it, and that suddenly means that he's an evil danger to you, because you're the one that came along and interrupted him doing it in the first place, does it? When you hear the director talking about something that doesn't make sense, as if this is some kind of profound moment, it makes it all the so much worse. Look, I can just understand if you're incompetent and lazy and just throwing it out there, but when you're talking about it as if this actually makes sense and we're all supposed to swallow this crap, seriously, how low an opinion do you have of your audience?
Could have been possibly a couple of weeks.
Who are these three creatures overlooking the crater where the stranger landed?
If I told you, then we would ruin the fun.
Stop it.
We know for sure that our dear Harfoots are likely in mortal peril.
Awesome! I think I might have a favourite episode coming up.
Prior migration, who fell behind. We could not wait for them. Miles Bright Apple.
We wait for you.
Take their wheels and leave them. What's it gonna take?
Let's talk about your character's budding romance. Where's it gonna go?
Those are some carefully placed name tags.
10 minutes of first meeting Emma, she said, I don't think my character's into you.
Are we sure she didn't mean actually you because you've read the script and we've seen the episode? At one point, she was giving you a sponge bath.
It didn't make sense to me. I was like, why would she's so ambitious. Why would she be interested in a rich boy?
I just couldn't understand it. I don't know why she'd be interested. Because she actually adds that last bit, the rich boy, to make it sound better. Oh, I can't possibly imagine why someone would be interested in a rich man. Call me befuddled. The situation is just beyond my comprehension. But at first, she does just go, I couldn't understand. I just can't understand why she'd be interested in a rich boy. Suddenly realised how insulting that sounded and had to just spit out something that didn't make any sense. It's probably a poor choice of words.
Starts to realise that she's pretty special.
First, for me, it's I have a growing respect for your father, and I'm very aware that you're his son.
Daddy issues. Oh yeah, let me give you a sponge bath. You know your father? He does have a magnificent beard.
You're constantly looking for
a way to be appreciated.
Oh great, so we've got a character based around the constant need for attention. What a unique experience. I've never met one of them before.
Ierian is a progressive character, wants to be an apprentice, and wants to make a name for herself in a field dominated by men.
Oh, please, no, make it stop. Mind you, I guess it explains a previous comment.
I like that she has sort of selfish ambitions and she's not careful if she's likable or not. I think that's cool.
Well, that's lucky because you're failing miserably at the moment. This must be some of that hopeful, optimistic, and loving content which the showrunners said they wanted to insert so much.
This ideology took my brother away, and in some sense my mother. Therefore, it's not what I'm going to align myself with. You know?
Oh yeah, that must be some of that famous allegory that Tolkien just loves so much. A lot like this.
I get a lot of, Farazon is, very tribal and sort of Brexit references. I think Farazon is a globalist.
Back to the books, back to the books, back to the books. It's like Tolkien's in the room. But they talk about why the guy decided to blow up the ships in the first place, and he doesn't seem aware that he's just wrapped around this woman's finger for no reason.
Why does Kemen tries to burn the boats?
Because of this push from Ierian. I think it's a massive moment for his growth.
Let's not talk about your growth, mate. Although he might be a bit more self-aware than I'm giving him credit for.
I don't think, as much as it makes sense, that the spoils could be worth it.
Because at the end of the day, don't think the spoils are worth it. You're not worth it, dear. You're making me commit treason just so I can get a look at your jobblies.
When they told me I was doing a two-handed sword fight, I was like, good luck.
So was everyone going into it, and having watched it, they really needed it, didn't they?
But you did the whole thing yourself. I mean, it was amazing.
It was absolutely amazing. That's a very good word for it. Personally, I'd even call it glorious. An incredible moment in entertainment. But I'd say the same things about She-Hulk. I kind of judge things on a different kind of level. Is this so awful that it's funny and will make a great video? It's kind of the bar I'm using at the moment. But that was Deadline's video for episode 5. There's 4 more of these, and there's more in the future, presumably. So I'm going to go through them and all the best bits. I'll be sure to let you know. But for now, that's it from me. Let me know your thoughts below. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe. More videos like this in the future, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.